Lord, let the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, our rock, our Redeemer. Amen. I'd like to offer for you a bit of a dramatic recreation of the book of Job. I'm not going to cover myself with boils. Don't worry about that. But just want to make sure you understand the story first before I tell you what's going to be happening. Job is someone that was afflicted. He lost all of his children, his livelihood, his home, everything. Then his body is afflicted with wounds and hurts. And he has this conversation with his friends about why he is suffering. Now I want you to imagine that we're in a lecture hall. And sitting here is Job. When I'm here, I'm going to be the facilitator. And we have 5 wonderful speakers who are going to come and introduce to Job the reason for his suffering. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled that you can be here for this wonderful forum to try to really come to sense of why it is that we suffer. And this is certainly pertinent to our friend Mr. Job and all of his pain that he has been living with. We have 5 wonderful speakers with just brilliant acclaim and bona fides that are very impressive, who have different takes on why it is that we struggle, why it is that we suffer, and where God is with all of that. And I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to introduce our first speaker. Oh, this is a visiting professor of divine will and retribution from Regents College in Virginia, Professor Mackey Loon. Professor Loon is known for his speaking and his writing, and we know that he's going to have just a wonderful word to share to Job on suffering. That is a horrible thing to say. I've lost everything. I'm in pain. I was a good person. I am a good person. I didn't deserve any of this. Maybe I didn't go to church once or twice. That doesn't justify this kind of hurt. And the God that I read about maybe punishes, but not like this. No, I won't accept that answer. Well, thank you, Professor Loon, for at least trying. Our next guest is Dr. Ted Better. Dr. Ted Better is from the Institute of Hopeful Thinking. He was also worked with the Optimism Agency and the Sunnyside Corporation before being with the Institute of Hopeful Thinking. And we're really encouraged to hear what Dr. Ted Better has to say to us today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, facilitator. Thank you, Mr. Job, for allowing me to speak. I'm very excited to be here and to offer some really good news that if you're suffering, it's because God's going to make something really great happen. God really has a purpose for this to happen, and God's glory is going to come out of this. I know it hurts, but it's going to be okay, Mr. Job. It's going to be okay. You just have to, be strong and push through. But God has a purpose for all of this, and it's to show glory. And we may not know, but maybe thousands of years, people will be reading about you, Mr. Job, and find some kind of wisdom and see God's glory. That's the answer. You're suffering because God is going to make something amazing out of your pain. I held my daughter when she died. I wasn't there when my other children died. I only heard about it from a messenger. My wife all but hates me. It's hard to sleep, hard to be awake. And you're telling me that God is doing this for good? God created out of nothing. Why can't God create good out of nothing? Why does God have to afflict me in this kind of way? That's not a God I can worship. That's not a God I can follow who uses me like a pawn to show glory. Isn't the mountains and the sun enough? Well, thank you, Dr. Gutter, for trying. Make sure you have some donuts and coffee on the way out. This is not as easy as I hoped, but I really feel good about this next speaker, William Bright. William Bright is a well-known motivational speaker throughout the country. He fills auditoriums. His books are great bestsellers, Smile and Learn Something, and Your Best Lessons Now. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome motivational speaker William Bright. Mr. Joe, speaker, audience, I'm so glad to be here. Let me tell you something. You don't know what you don't know. And you need to learn something. There are things that you're just not aware of, things that you just don't know. You can't presume to expect that you have an idea. Now, Mr. Joe, if you read my book, you would find that there's 8 easy steps to figure out what the lesson is that God is trying to teach you. But this is happening because God is trying to teach you a lesson. You need to stop and to listen and to really think and to try to imagine how it is that God is taking your life and turning it around so that you can be the successful person that God wants you to be. There's a lesson in this, Mr. Joe. There's a lesson to learn. Couldn't God just have made a pamphlet? Well, they talk about the patience of Job, but they haven't talked about our patience. Mr. Job, I am really disappointed. I want you to really be kind to this next speaker. He's new to the speaking circuit. He's just started teaching at the State University. Fred Jones, Dr. Jones, his dissertation is really excellent. I encourage you all to read it. It's Process Ontology, Epistemology, Whitehead, and Hartshorn, a confluence of counterintuitive hyperfactuals and clues for the robust pneumatology. I know this is going to be fantastic, so I'd like to welcome Dr. Fred Jones and his insight. I have to say I'm kind of shocked that you even asked me to be here. Most people don't like what I have to say, and I think it's relevant, and I hope you really can get something out of it. But here's the thing: God's not in control. If you read the 3rd and 4th chapters of my dissertation, and please do. Please. I don't intend them yet. But you'll see in those chapters I talk about how it just doesn't make sense for God to be in control of everything and such horrible things to happen. I mean, God's powerful, definitely, but God can't be in control. Because if God's in control, then this doesn't make sense. I don't want that God. I need someone that creates. I need... When I'm wrestling with this kind of pain and this kind of hurt, I don't want God just to be someone that walks aside along me but can't do anything to help me. To take control away from God? What does that say about creation itself? What does that say about redemption? And what does that say about hope? Your God is a wizard, but not God. One more chance. And I honestly, between you and me, I was hoping we wouldn't even have to invite the speaker up. I was hoping that Joe would be convinced by now, but it seems that we've gotten to this place. We're going to have to invite up the professor, where is his name? Oh, Dr. Theo Nonlife. An apt name. His name is known for his books, Why I'm Better Than You, and Your God is Weak and Your Theology is Dead. He has taught at Princvord University, Princvord, and Yalmouth. And you'll in for something.
There is no God. That's all I need to say, isn't it? There is no God. We suffer and we don't suffer. It just happens. Now, Mr. Job, I'm sure you would say this is very bleak and dim and you want to have some kind of hope. But I say to you, a world without God is a world that is hopeful. No more trying to please some divine being. No more trying to explain things with silly little superstitions and stories. Our life is our own. Our lessons are ours to learn. We try to live well. We try to be okay. But that's all there is to it. You're suffering. I'm sorry. But there is no God.
Before all this happened, I could say I was blessed. I was doing well, I had wonderful children, loving wife. I can't imagine that part of my life without God. And as much as you seem to offer just an easy way out, I just can't go there. I need to stay in struggle. I can't be in a world where there is no God. Because then this is so random and so horrific. And there is no hope at all. That's the best we could do. I hope you got something out of it, and I'm sorry, Mr. Job, if we weren't able to convince you at all. And seen. The sermon's not over yet. I still got a whole sermon to preach. Are you kidding? That was just a quick now. Let me unpack a little bit of that and offer you a little more to work with. And if you read the book of Job, what you get is, to a degree, the conversation you just heard. I added a couple of more thoughts that are true to this time period. But you get those same kind of questions, and his friends pushing with those same kind of answers, and Job pushing back. And that's where we engage with the passage that we heard read today, with this conversation happening of people trying to say to Job, why is it that you suffer? And it's there that God breaks in. And I'm not so bold as to presume to try to play the part of God breaking in. But imagine if that was still happening and all of a sudden all the lights went out and the doors opened and you hear this rush of wind and you hear this voice that says, who darkens counsel with knowledge and wisdom? Who's saying things that makes it harder and harder to really see? Who is offering these ideas that really have no merit and value that's making it darker and darker? God is intervening in this conversation that could go on for eternity and bringing in light. But what God offers is not a hope or an answer. What God offers is an explanation of part of who God is. God starts to speak and says, where were you? Where were you when I created you? Where were you when I put the stars in the sky? Where were you when I created the waters and all the chaos that is a part of the waters? And then all the chaos in the waters, this is where you stop. And what we hear from God is this assurance and this reminder that God is in control. Now this can be difficult for us. Because if God's in control, we have to ask again and again, why is it that bad things happen? Why is it if God's in control, volcanoes are still erupting and lives are being lost? If God's in control, why are forest fires going throughout the West Coast? If God's in control, why are children still killing each other? Why are adults killing each other? Why do diseases continue to scourge us? Why is pain a part of our life? If God is in control, why do bad things still happen? Why do we suffer? We're about to move into 3 by now, Randy. I'm flying through this. And we don't know. Part of what's brilliant with the book of Job is we don't get an answer. Some scholars have said that Job doesn't really talk about the how of suffering, not the why of suffering, but more the how of suffering. Not why do we suffer, but rather how do we suffer? How do we endure? How do we stay true and stay righteous even when all is lost and gone? The hope is that if God's in control, and however we can understand that, whatever that might mean, it means God doesn't leave us. God stays with us. And maybe God doesn't give us an answer or an explanation. Maybe God says it's so you can learn a lesson, or it's not. Or you're being punished, or you're not. Or so my glory can be shown, or not. But I'm with you. And I'm not going to leave you. As Christians, it's hard to read that without thinking of the cross. It's hard to read about God's presence in the place of suffering without our minds going to the cross and knowing that if God could stay on the cross and suffer and die, then God can stay with us in our own suffering and pain, and that God knows what we're going through. And to trust that God will not leave us. Job does not give us easy answers, but rather calls us into the mystery and to let go. But Job does give us assurance that whatever we face, we are not alone. Amen. For our final hymn, I invite you to stand as you are able and join in singing hymn 365. Abide with me, thus falls the eventide.